Coming in at number 10 we have Jack the Ripper. Who was he? The question has been asked for 130 years and we still aren't totally sure of the answer. Jack the Ripper famously killed at least 5 people, all women, in and around the Whitechapel area in London between 1888 and 1891, although he has been linked to 11 deaths and could have killed more. When he did kill, it was decidedly grisly to say the least. Of his victims were Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes and Mary Jane Kelly. Famously, the murder cases were never solved, but eyewitnesses around the time of the murders generally described him as being a dark-haired, shaggy fellow. Letters claimed to have been written by the killer himself were sent to the police, in which the author called himself Jack. So, who was the ghoul of Whitechapel? As the crimes happened in the days prior to DNA identification, we can never say for sure, which means he's gone down in history as one of the most macabre mysteries. Coming into number 9, we have the Mothman. Can we call the Mothman a person? Well, by all accounts no, but he or it was certainly humanoid and very, very much a mystery. The Mothman story spans years and hundreds of miles from West Virginia to Chicago, and possibly even Russia. In November 1966, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant in West Virginia claimed to have seen a large grey creature with glowing red eyes and a human body, but 10-foot wings. During the next few days, more people reported seeing a winged man. Indeed, 2 firemen claimed to have seen a large bird with red eyes. A year later saw the Silver Bridge disaster, which saw the death of 46 people. The Mothman was spotted around the scene of the crime. A Mothman-like creature was spotted in 1999 and foreshadowed the Russian apartment bombings. How did he get over there? Oh wait, he has wings. Oddly, in 2017, 55 people reported seeing a Mothman-like creature in Chicago. So what's happening? Coming into number 8, we have the Man of the Hole. This man has lived in isolation in the Amazonian rainforest for 22 years. In the 1980s, the government bulldozed a highway through his part of the Amazon, and of course Amazonian tribes have been under threat ever since we started raising it for agriculture. A lot of tribes have been destroyed by deforestation and others by actual genocidal attacks. This is the environment that the Man of the Hole has lived in his whole life. Eventually in 1995, the entirety of the rest of his tribe was killed, and he was the only survivor. The Brazilian government have kept tracks on the sole tribesman, but he has fired arrows at anyone who's come too close to him, and honestly, who can blame him? He gets his name as he digs holes filled with spikes to hunt. He's actually been captured on camera so you can get a little look at him. Here he is. Coming into number 7, we have the man from Taured. This is a most amazing top 10 favourite. In 1954, a man in a suit who has been described as smart looking was detained at the Japanese border at Haneda Airport, arriving on a flight from Europe. The middle-aged Caucasian man spoke French and said that he was on his 3rd trip that year to Japan, and he had a wallet filled with a mixture of currencies, seeming to verify his business traveller status. Weirdly though, when he presented his passports, officials were baffled. Asking where he was from, the man said Taured as if it weren't no thing. He showed his passport again and the stamps actually seemed to support his travels, but again, he knew where Taured is. Here's a picture of his passport. Taured basically isn't a place. I say basically, it isn't a place, not in this universe anyway. The man was freaked out when officers told him that they didn't believe him. Adding another layer to the mystery, he was carrying a checkbook to a non-existent bank, and the company he was travelling to visit said that they'd never even heard of him, even though he was adamant that he had a meeting scheduled. When he was asked to point out Taured on a map, he pointed to where Andorra is today. Strange. The man from Taured was detained in a hotel overnight whilst Japanese authorities decided what to do with him, but by morning he'd disappeared without a trace. Similarly odd at number 6, we have the Garlic Woman of Isdal. If you were paying attention at the beginning of the video, I highlighted number 6 as being one of the weirdest to me. In November of 1970, a man was walking with his 2 daughters and found the badly burned body of a woman in Isdalen Ice Valley in Bergen, Norway. The woman was found lying on her back in a remote area, but weirdly only her front was burnt, her back strangely not so. Also odd, her jewellery had been placed around her. Her charred clothes were found nearby and had the labels cut out. Very strange. So too was the fact that an autopsy showed that she had 50 sleeping pills in her stomach. Stranger still, police investigating the death later found 2 suitcases in lockers at Bergen railway station. One contained prescription-free glasses with fingerprints that matched the woman's. The case also contained a number of different currencies and several wigs. Police later found that the unidentified woman stayed at a number of different hotels using 8 fake names and fake passports. Local businesses reported seeing a woman that matched her description, and one shoe store owner remembers her smelling strongly of garlic. In 2005, after seeing a police sketch circulated, a man who had been 26 at the time said that he had seen a woman fitting her description 5 days before her body was found. He was hiking in the hillside in Fløyen. He remembers thinking it strange that she looked like she was dressed in city clothes rather than as he would expect someone to be dressed for a hike. He said that the woman was walking ahead of 2 men wearing coats who looked quote-unquote southern. She appeared to be resigned and seemed about to say something to him, but then she decided not to. He did report it to the police because he was freaked out at the time, but he was told to forget about it. So what happened to her? Who was she and why was she killed? Was she a spy? We don't know. Her body is buried in an unmarked grave in Bergen, and her coffin is zinc as to preserve her remains. Perhaps one day we'll have an answer, but maybe not. Coming into number 5, we have Aleister Crowley. Aleister is one of the most famous, or perhaps I should say infamous, occultists and magicians in history. He labelled himself as a prophet, having founded the religion of Thelma, which is, maybe pretty cocky, right? He inherited his dad's fortune at the age of 21 in 1896, and that'll do it. Age 23, he was thrown out of a magic society for dueling. He went on a Himalayan expedition, which he survived, but actually, many of his companions died. He claimed that his body bore the marks of Buddha. Later, he began performing satanic rituals, and he practiced pretty intense bedroom antics, if you know what I mean. In World War I, it is believed that he was a spy for the British government. He took a lot of drugs and was hailed as the wickedest man in the world by the press at the time. Honestly, I have to say this kind of absinthe-swilling occultist, debauched and decadent image kind of makes me like him, historically speaking. I bet actually in real life though, if you knew him, he was an absolute— I can't say that word on this channel, so why don't you imagine one and apply it to him? Coming into number 4, we have Robert Johnson. Did Robert Johnson make a deal with the devil? The story goes that the popular blues musician met the devil at a crossroads in Mississippi, and when he saw him, he exchanged his soul for musical success. In utter fairness, he did become legendary, but like a lot of musicians said to be cursed, he died at age 27. The legend became enduring, with many people seriously believing it. People think that his song Crossroads is cursed and about the meeting with the devil. Bands who have covered it, including Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers and Eric Clapton, have actually suffered losses and tragedies, so maybe it is. Coming into number 3, we have the woman on the grassy knoll. Also frequently referred to as the babushka lady, there is a woman out there who was seemingly present the day that President John F. Kennedy was shot in 1963 in Dallas. There are a lot of question marks surrounding the president's death even to this day. Officially, it was ruled as an assassination by Lee Harvey Oswald. That being said, evidence suggests that there was 2 shooters, with many other theories saying his killing could have been from a higher organization, like the Russians or perhaps even the United States government. On the day the president died, there was a woman in a headscarf stood on a grassy knoll as his motorcade went by, but she has never been identified. She was last seen moving away from the scene of the crime in the direction of Elm Street. Who was she? We don't know. Coming into number 2, we have the Somerton Man. Often described as Australia's strangest cold case, the mystery of the Somerton Man is an unsolved case of a man who was found dead on a beach in Adelaide on the morning of December 1st, 1948. The man was slumped in the sand in a sitting up position. His head was resting on a seawall. He had a half-smoked cigarette resting on his collar, and in his pockets was a portion of the final page of a book called Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. I'm not sure if I said that right, I'm really sorry. The sentence he had in his pocket read Tashand in Persian, which translates as simply ended. 6 weeks after the grisly discovery, a suitcase was found at Adelaide railway station seemingly belonging to the man. It bore the name Keane, although nobody of that first or last name was reported missing. A few months after that, a copy of the book with the missing half page was found. It was turned into police by someone who claimed it was just thrown into his car near Somerton Beach, the place where the body was found. The man's cause of death death remains unknown, as does his identity. He just was, there and dead. All police know to this day is that he was likely around 40 and presumed to have arrived in Adelaide by train. Finally, coming into number 1, a person that actually is talked about a lot over at I.O., we have Baba Vanga. Baba, she's such a mystery. Her whole story is absolutely nuts. She was born as an unhealthy baby, and when she was a teen, she was lifted up in a tornado, an accident that then led her to lose her sight, but gained the power of healing and, seemingly, the ability to see the future. Before she died, she made a series of pretty accurate predictions, including 9/11, the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, the sinking of a Russian submarine. It seems that so far her predictions have been around 80% accurate. So, what says she of the future? She says that the 45th President of the United States will be the last, that Muslims will storm Europe, and a freeze ray gunfight will happen in Rome in 2043. We'll find a new energy source on Venus. The ice caps will melt in 2033. The Earth's orbit will shift. Communism will return. There'll be an artificial sun. There'll be a major global drought. The Earth will get a ring like Saturn, which I'm here for. By the year 3000, not much will have changed, but we will all live underwater and our great-great-great-granddaughters will be pretty fine. In the year 4000, we will get to know God and we will achieve immortality. The end of the universe is coming right up in the year 5000. Wow, Baba, what a horrifying lady. If only she was here to clarify a few things, because freeze ray guns, I need more information. Alright, as promised at number 10 we have Amelia Earhart. In July 1937, 39-year-old aviation queen Amelia Earhart went missing. She was the first female to fly solo across the Atlantic, and she was also known for doing whatever the heck she liked. I like her. My favourite quote of hers is, "Never interrupt someone doing something you said couldn't be done." The sass. Also, I love that she said the most effective way to do it is to do it. Babe, I feel you. I feel like we would have been friends. Aside from being a major babe and an overall saspiration, she is at the centre of one of the most major and known mysteries of all time, her disappearance. On July 2nd, 1937, just 3 weeks before her 40th birthday, Amelia and her navigator, Fred Noonan, disappeared in an attempt to circumnavigate the globe. It is thought something went amiss in the Pacific Ocean near Howland Island, but to this day nobody knows, as Amelia's body and aircraft have never been found. Many wild theories have been formed, some suggesting that she made it to Howland Island and lived as a castaway. Others say that she was captured by Japanese troops who held her hostage and the US government refused to pay her ransom. They wanted the upper hand in the Second World War that was impending, but they didn't get it. Some even say that she faked her own death in order to live a new life under a new identity in New Jersey, which of course does seem a bit far-fetched. We may never know, although modern DNA analysis could have the answer. Bones have been found on an island in the area, and they've kind of been linked to the pilot, but at the moment they have not yet been DNA tested. If they are hers, then we'll know that she died as a castaway, but if not, well, the mystery continues. Coming in at number 9, we have Virilin. Who is Virilin? I'll let him or her or it tell you his, her, its self. Genders are hard when it comes to aliens. Representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. The Voice took over a British news broadcast on Southern Television at 5:10 on the 26th of November 1977. It was a cold Saturday in the late afternoon and it was already dark out. A lot of people were on the sofa watching TV when they heard Virilin's robotic voice interrupt newsreader Andrew Gardner. Virilin claimed to be a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. He said, "For many years you have seen us as lights in the sky. We speak to you now in peace and wisdom as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over this, your planet Earth. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course you must take in order to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings in our world around you." Honestly, have a little listen.
The course you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings on other worlds around you.
Wordy, these aliens, they're very wordy. Virilin ends the speech by imploring planet Earth to change its ways before it's too late. Goodness. So who actually is Virilyn? Well, saying a rep for the Ashtar Galactic doesn't kind of clear that up, does it? If that was alien contact, we still don't know anything about where this alien came from and how they managed to infiltrate our airwaves. If more likely Virilyn was a sensationalist hacker, well, they were never caught. Southern Television never found who was responsible. Virilyn, human, or alien? It's still an utter mystery. V for Virilyn, but skipping down the alphabet to W at number 8, we have the W-Man. I love a tenuous link. The W-Man is often dubbed the time-travelling hipster for reasons quite apparent when you see his picture. The picture was taken at the opening of South Fork Bridge in British Columbia, Canada in 1941, but it got the world's attention in 2010 at a photo exhibit. So in this picture there is one chap who stands out. Unlike all of the other lads, he isn't wearing a hat. He is wearing sunglasses though, which nobody else is wearing. His hair looks pretty modern and he's stubbly, like absolutely nobody else in this picture. He also appears to be holding a modern DSLR camera. So where did he come from? The future? Like, maybe he kinda looks like it. Some people think his t-shirt has an M on it, which I guess also could be. I feel like I need more information, but unfortunately, I'm not getting any. Coming into number 7, we have Anonymous. Ain't no mystery quite like Anonymous, the so-called hacktivist group prone to issuing stark warnings to large corporations, governments, and world leaders. The group are characterized by the wearing of Guy Fawkes masks and speak with a voice-altering, kind of robotic voice. The group have gone after police officers by organizing cyber protests in the wake of fatal shootings of unarmed citizens. They've encouraged the safe care of homeless people. They've gone after the Saudi government to protest their regime. They've hacked Fox News, and they even have their own YouTube channel. So it is safe to say that they aren't well liked by the man. However, they simply don't know how to track down the hacktivists. They describe themselves as modern day Robin Hoods, but I don't know, we just don't know who they are. Coming into number 6, we have Belle Gunness. Belle. Belle Gunness was one of America's most prolific female serial killers. Belle was physically very imposing and was of American and Norwegian descent. She killed her husband, children, suitors, boyfriends, and more for good measure. She was a killer. In fact, it is thought that Belle killed over 40 people between 1900 and 1908, which is a lot. Just as her criminal activities were discovered, her house miraculously burned down. While a headless female body was found, it was not ever verified as belonging to Belle. Many people believe that she escaped. There were many sightings of the woman after she was declared dead. Police never managed to apprehend anyone though, so what happened to Belle? We just don't know. She was a master criminal and murderess, so if anyone could disappear, I imagine it would be her. Coming into number 5, we have the missing Russian princess. What happened to the Grand Duchess Anastasia? Anastasia was the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Tsarina Alexandra. Basically, these were the last king and queen of Russia. The princess was inside the Ipatiev house when the Bolsheviks stormed and murdered her entire family. She was 18 and very beautiful at the time. Her death was considered by a lot of people to be an absolute tragedy. The only thing is though is that nobody was able to confirm that she did die. They never found her body, so they couldn't confirm her death. In fact, several women actually came forward and claimed to be the Grand Duchess Anastasia in later years. Stories were spun. One said that the family jewels were sewn into the princess's corset, which may have made them bulletproof. One woman who claimed to have been the escaped Anastasia was Anna Anderson. She claimed that she feigned her death to escape. Two other claimants said that they were Anna and her sister Maria, and they said that they escaped to the Ural Mountains and lived as nuns. Rumours of Anastasia's survival were going strong for nearly 100 years after her supposed death, until though a body was found that more than likely probably was hers, although there still isn't definitive proof. The story was even turned into a Broadway musical, which we all know I'm here for. Coming into number 4, we have Jerome. Who is Jerome and what happened to his legs? We may never know. It seems that in September 1863, a man in Nova Scotia, Canada was discovered by an 8-year-old boy. The man was legless and suffering from exposure. The boy alerted his family, who took the man into their care. He didn't speak any English, but curiously, he didn't seem to speak any words. The family named the man Jerome and they took him to a doctor. The doctor confirmed that his legs had been recently amputated. He still had the original dressings on them and the wounds hadn't healed. The family tried to teach him how to speak, but he seemed only to be able to growl. Theorists say that Jerome was a sailor who was punished for mutiny with amputation. Others say that he was a member of a First Nations community, but he didn't look or sound like one. Some say he may have been a wealthy man and heir to a fortune, but was disposed of. Jerome lived for 50 years after his discovery. He never learned to talk and his identity was never revealed. Coming into number 3, we have green boots. This is so tragic and a stark reminder of the brutal nature of, well, nature. Green Boots was the name given to a frozen dead body of a failed Mount Everest climber. A lot of people, around 300, have died trying to summit on or on their way down from the top of the tallest mountain in the world. Some estimate that the climbers have a 1 in 10 chance of dying on their way down. The trouble is, it's too hard to recover a corpse from the top of Everest, so often they're just left there and they become landmarks. Green Boots became exactly that. He was lying on his right, his face toward the mountain, and he laid there between 2001 and 2014. While known as Green Boots because of his bright footwear, nobody knows who he actually was. In 2014, his body went missing. Now, it may have been buried in an avalanche or retrieved. Either way, we still don't know who Green Boots was. Ooh, I love this at number 2. We have The Man in the Iron Mask. I loved the Leonardo DiCaprio movie The Man in the Iron Mask. It turns out though that it was actually based on a true story. There was indeed a mystery man in a mask. A super prisoner arrived at Bastille during the reign of King Louis XIV of France in 1698. The man was known only as prisoner 643890000. Lengthy. It seems that the prisoner was suspected to be a high-level political prisoner. He was forbidden from showing his face and was confined to an iron mask. In 1703, he passed away in the prison and his identity remains a mystery to this day. Now, the movie suggests that King Louis had an identical twin brother that he wanted to off, but more realistic suggestions say that it could have been a disgraced member of the royal family. Others say it was an Italian nobleman who had caused offence, possibly Matthiol, who was abducted from the Italian court. The only thing is though that Matthiol died in 1694, so it couldn't have been him, but who was it? Finally, coming into number 1, I actually kinda love this story. We have D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper, wah! A man under the guise of D.B. Cooper successfully hijacked a plane in the airspace between Portland and Seattle in the USA on November the 24th, 1971. The man boarded and hijacked the plane, extorting $200,000 in ransom, and then jettisoned. He parachuted to safety. Or did he? Nobody knows where he landed or if he even survived the fall. There was an extensive manhunt from the FBI, but the man's real identity was never solved. Numerous theories were circulated. Also, the serial numbers on the cash that he stole were also released and searched for, but again, no trace was ever found. As of 2016, the investigation has been suspended and remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. Coming in at number 10, we have Spring-Heeled Jack. Who, I say who, was Spring-Heeled Jack? The name Spring-Heeled Jack popped up in British news publications in 1837 amid a spate of weird attacks around Clapham Common in London. One Mary Stevens was walking to Lavender Hill through the park when a figure leapt out at her. Rather oddly, the chap, or beast, kinda kissed her and ripped off her clothes with his claws, which is pretty awkward, and claws, I say it again. I really would not like to be set upon, and neither did Mary. She claimed that his kiss was cold and clammy. She screamed on attack, and rightly so, which spooked the man or creature. He kind of sprang away. The next day, a man fitting the attacker's description was seen jumping in front of a carriage, causing a crash. He then reportedly escaped by jumping over a 9-foot wall whilst laughing manically. This odd behaviour earned him the nickname Spring-Heeled Jack, who is also called the Terror of London in the media. Not a real person, I hear you cry? You are wrong! The light-footed devil was actually officially recognised by the Lord Mayor of London on the 9th of January 1838. Following that, further sightings did crop up in newspapers, including a much publicised attack on 2 women in February 1838. One described the figure as vomiting blue and white flames, while his eyes resembled red balls of fire. My favourite is this 1867 illustration of the devil. He seems to have moved from London up to the northwest of England, and he was last spotted in Liverpool in 1904. So, who or what was Spring-Heeled Jack? Coming in at number 9, we have the Green Children of St Martin's Lane. If you visit the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, really not too far from where my parents live, locals will tell you about a mystery that befell the historic place in the 12th century. 2 children turned up out of seemingly nowhere. They spoke a different language and their skin was an off shade of greenish. The pair were taken in by kindly village folk who tried to care for them, only to find that they would only eat raw broad beans. Eventually the children's green skin began to fade into a normal colour and they were baptised by villagers. Sadly, the boy died, but the girl adjusted to her new life, learning English. When she was actually able to speak, she explained that her and her brother had come from a place called St Martin's Land, a world underground inhabited by green people. She said her and her brother were feeding their father's flock when they heard a loud sound and were somehow transported into an above ground field. Speaking of the whole life underground thing, this is how the girl was reported to have explained it. The sun does not rise upon our countrymen, our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with that twilight which among you precedes the sunrise or follows sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen not far distant from ours, and divided by it by a very considerable river. Is this a hint at a parallel universe, or do you think the children were faking it? If so, why were they green? Why did they stay green for so long? And, you know, where did they come from? Ooh, this is such a mystery. Coming into number 8, we have Alyssa Lamb. This is actually quite a recent story, which makes it even scarier. Alyssa Lamb is a true enigma. In 2013, the Canadian student went missing after a stay at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. The hotel itself has seen many dramas over the years, but this one has video evidence and it's really bizarre. The video was posted of her from an elevator security camera by police, and this was the last time she was seen alive. In the video, she's acting exceptionally strangely, very erratically. From the footage, it clearly looks like Alyssa is talking to someone who just wasn't there. She presses a number of buttons in the elevator, then the doors fail to close. She is seen peering out of the elevator and then trying to hide in the corner. She then exits the elevator and seems to be pleading with someone invisible outside of the door. Now the footage does end with her walking out of shot and the lift door opening and closing a number of times, which seems to be a bizarre mechanical fault. Alyssa was travelling on her own, and at first she was in a shared room but was moved because her behaviour appeared to be very odd. Now Alyssa was known to have bipolar and depression. She went missing at the end of January and her body was found on the 19th of February. Now the grisly discovery was made by hotel maintenance workers who had come to investigate issues with the water pressure system. It seems that she was dead in the water tank. She was naked and her clothes and possessions were found floating next to her. It isn't possible for her to have climbed in on her own. It seems that her death shares some very disturbing similarities with the 2005 movie Dark Water. So what happened to Alyssa Lamb, and who was she talking to outside the elevator? We just don't know. Coming into number 7, we have the Count of Saint Germain. The Count of Saint Germain was a European adventurer who was dubbed the Wonder Man by Voltaire. The French national was a member of high society, and he was hailed as a great philosopher. The only thing is that nobody actually knew his origins, where he came from or what his upbringing was like. In order to deflect questions about his upbringing, he'd say crazy things like he was 500 years old. He was wealthy and highly educated, and at times claimed to be the son of a prince, although these were unfounded. It seems that at one point he may have been arrested in London on suspicion of espionage but was released. Lady Jemima York once wrote a letter referring to him. She said, "He is an odd creature, and the more I see him, the more curious I am to know something about him." He died in what historians think were his late 80s, which is actually really old for the time that he was alive. Nobody was any of the wiser as to who he actually was, which is, again, super strange. Coming into number 6, we have the Poe toaster. Who are they? Edgar Allan Poe died in 1849, and just when we thought that the raven had quaffed its last, 100 years after the American poet's death, a mysterious figure started appearing at the graveside of Poe's final resting place on the anniversary of his birthday. So that's January the 19th for all those who want to pop along to Baltimore and try and solve this mystery. The graveside figure is always clad in a black cloak and wielding a silver-tipped cane. Ostentatious. I love it. The visitor brings with them 3 red roses and half a bottle of cognac. They raise a toast to the poet, drink it up, and then leave the whiskey and flowers graveside. While people go along and try and spot the mystery toaster, nobody has ever tried to uncloak or disturb the figure, which actually I'm really glad for. Some things I think should remain a mystery. Coming into number 5, we have Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. What a mouthful! Did Madame Helena have real spiritual truth and paranormal powers, or was she a charlatan? Either way, I think I like her. Her narrative is debated today. She features in Lionel and Patricia Fanthorpe's book The World's Most Mysterious People, and it's easy to see why. Helena was born in 1831 to a wealthy Russian family, and from childhood possessed unusual psychic powers. She ran away from her husband and escaped Russia aged 18 and went on a madcap adventure through the Americas, India, and the Oriental East. Some critics claim that this never happened and that she made it all up, but whatever happened, she did return to Europe spiritually enlightened. She met a man, Mahatma Maurya, that she claimed she had seen in her psycho-spiritual dreams since she was small. The woman created her own religion called Theosophy, and she changed her name to HPB, and actually many people worshipped her as a guru, while some were vehemently opposed to her. She spoke Russian, Georgian, English, French, Italian, Arabic, and Sanskrit. Let's also remember that this was the 1800s, a horrible time for sassy, bold women, but she was doing her thing. The mystery surrounding her probably comes from a society who simply could not believe that she was such a formidable force. Coming into number 4, we have Berenger Saunier. Berenger Saunier was born in 1852 and died in 1917, aged 64. His life and death sparked much intrigue at the time and beyond, ever since he moved to the French village of Rennes-le-Château. Stories about the village and the priest consist of many theories, some of which involve the mysterious Knights Templar, the Merovingians, the Cathars, the Holy Grail, Mary Magdalene, and the remains of Jesus Christ. Oddly, the priest handled a lot of money. Documents from the 1890s suggest that he spent around 660,000 francs when he only had a salary of 90 francs a year. Some say that he found treasure buried under the land of Rennes-le-Château. Others say that he found evidence that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and produced offspring that eventually became the Merovingian dynasty. Some think he was being bribed by a higher force. We know that the priest was fired, effectively in 1909, but he refused to leave the village of Rennes-le-Château. For some reason, something or perhaps someone was keeping him there. His story has inspired many mystery and crime novels, including The Da Vinci Code. Coming into number 3, we have Caspar Hauser. Caspar Hauser is seen to appear from nowhere on the streets of Nuremberg in Germany. He carried a letter with him that was addressed to a local military man. The letter claimed that he was the son of a dead cavalryman and was to be taken in. He was taken to a police station and he wrote his name down as Caspar. He claimed that actually he was raised in a dark dungeon and that the first human that he'd ever met was a mysterious man who visited him not long before his release. He always hid his face, and Caspar said it was he who taught him to read and write. Some people thought that perhaps Caspar was an illegitimate member of the Baden royalty. The mystery continued. Often Caspar would appear wounded, and he would say that a mystery cloaked figure had come to cut him. In 1830, 3 years before his death, he was involved in a pistol accident. Again, it was all very suspicious. In 1833, he claims he was lured into a courtyard and stabbed in the stomach by a stranger who claimed to have been watching him. Eventually, Caspar did die of his wounds. His grave can be found in Ansbach, where his headstone reads in Latin, "Here lies Caspar Hauser, enigma of his time, mysterious as death." So what was going on? Was he making it all up? Was he actually an illegitimate member of the royal family? Again, we don't know. Coming into number 2, we have Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau is one of the most famous mystical women in history and often referred to as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. I kinda like that name. She was born a free Creole woman in Louisiana in 1801. Details of her life are pretty sketchy, but she managed to charm those who encountered her. Legend has it that Marie was beautiful, wise, and witchy. She practiced magic medicine and was able to heal people. It is also said that she was indeed a voodoo priestess and was able to read and control people's minds. She could summon spirits and raise the dead. It seems that she held a ceremony in her 70s that was attended by 12,000 people. They were oddly drawn to her. She died age 80 and people still visit her grave today, leaving offerings in exchange for requests and wishes. Finally, coming into the #1 spot, we have Rasputin. Ra ra Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Honestly, I think that song is an absolute banger and it makes me dance all the time. And so too was the mysterious Rasputin a banger, if you know what I mean. Rasputin was a renegade monk, a mystic healer, a sexual deviant, and a political uprooter. He's also the man who would not die. Rasputin allegedly stopped the bleeding of the hemophiliac prince, son of Tsar Nicholas, and was rumoured to be a lover to the wife, the Tsarina, hence the song. 2.5 years before his death in December 1916, Rasputin survived a murder attempt by a beggar woman. He was stabbed in the gut and lost a lot of blood, but miraculously, he survived a wound that would usually kill. Then, on that fateful day in December, he proved very hard to off indeed. It is said that he ate a meal heavily laced with poison, but he lived. Then the men conspiring to kill him decided to shoot him with a barrage of bullets, but he still wouldn't die. They tossed his body into an ice-cold river to drown, and I probably don't need to tell anyone how cold Russia is in December, right? Some further reports suggest that he was rescued from a river by passers-by, and that he still drew shaky breath. Some say his penis was cut off and obtained, smuggled, and now reportedly rests in a jar in the Museum of Erotica in St. Petersburg. Also, it's said to be a foot long. I would show you a picture, but this video would be demonetized in a heartbeat. But you know, have fingertips, we'll Google. Not that I'm encouraging it. Although, I mean, maybe I am. So, Rasputin, what was the deal? You tell me.